Okay, so I'm going to set the multi-router up, and chances are this will be set up for you. But what we're going to do is get that router bit right on that line right there. Hope you guys can see that. And then with that set, once the cameraman come around this way, we're going to adjust the stop so that it limits the travel. So again, with my line lined up on that router bit, I'm going to set the stop here so it hits the carriage right there. The cameraman can stay there. I'll go ahead and line up the, sorry, wrong stop. Line up the other line and lock the stop down. So cameraman come around here and we can go from stop to stop. Stops there, stops there, stops there, stops there. So now we're able to make this cut. So the reason I wanted to put the X's on there, the X's always need to face up. Never rotate your board. Always make sure the X is facing up. So, and that line right there is again going to be lined up with this line on the machine. So we're going to line up that line on the machine with the line that you made. And that goes, locks against that little fence there. Flip our trigger. And that should be good to cut. So let me get the dust. Okay, so we'll make these cuts. Okay, so off camera I made all my holes, my mortises. So I'm going to set those aside. Now I'm going to work on my long pieces. And again, we're going to set up so that we're touching the line to the table where the line and the table is. And I'm going to readjust my little hold downs here. Make sure my thumb doesn't get pinched off. Make my cut. All my mortise and tenons cut. It's time to make the, I'm sorry, with all my mortises cut, it's time to make the tenons. So let's review that process and we'll make some tenons and glue these. So what I want to do now is rip a piece of wood the distance from here to here at 1 inch. So go to the table saw and I'll set up for an inch cut. Maybe a 1/16 less to give yourself a little bit of wiggle room that way. So that's about 15/16 right there. Make my cut. Then we'll go to the planer and plane that down so it almost fits in there. Okay, so I'm almost done planing this. Let's take a look. You can see it's still a little bit too thick, so I'm going to go one more turn on the planer. Just a little bit off. gonna fine tune that on the big sander. But before I do that, I'm gonna use a router table to round over the edges. So let's go do that. Are you recording still? Fence moved. It's coming in close, I'll explain what's going on there. What I want to see happen is the bearing and the wood make contact at the same time. Right now it's not. Loosen the fence, tap it in. Right there it is. So we tighten that down. Finish my cut. Now we're all rounded over. Still a little bit too thick, so let's finish that off on the sander. Okay, so we're pretty good there. We got a nice little fit there. We're gonna stop this machine, and you'll notice when I sanded it, I took a little bit of that routed edge off. I'm gonna go ahead and clean that back up on the router table. So now I want to cut these to fit. So I'm gonna slide it into that mortise. Draw a line and measure the distance of that line and double it. So we're at 3/4 of an inch. 3/4 plus 3/4 is 1.5 inches, which is right there. And I actually want these mortises to be a little bit, these tenons to be a little bit smaller. So what I'm going to do is go to the bandsaw and cut right on the line. So let's show you what that looks like. By doing that, we're going to take it just a little bit smaller than we need to. Give some room for the glue to go. I'll make a bunch of cuts and we'll come back to it. Okay, so I'm done making my cuts. Now we're going to see if all my web frames fit together. If they do, we'll dry clamp them, glue them, and that'll be done with the web frames. Okay, so let's see how I did here. So I'm going to put the tenon in, put the short piece, long piece together. So if you look carefully, I got a little gap right there, don't I? This is going to be a pretty common situation for a lot of you. So what we're going to do now is take it to the disc sander. And you can see I got a little bit of an angle there. I guess I got in a big rush. So what I'm going to do is go to the disc sander and show you how to sand those off a little bit. So, if you have to cut a little bit of your tenon off, put it in a clamp like this. Go to the disc sander. Just sand a little bit off. Okay, so now we're going to dry clamp and glue these together. So I already have them dry clamped here. Let's take a look at everything going together. So we have the mortises and the tenons looking good, all lined up. We have the X's all facing up, so this is nice and even with each other. And then all we have to do is dry clamp it, make sure it looks good, and then glue it up. So This one over here is dry clamped. What you want to do is sight it this way, up and down here, to make sure that the boards aren't twisted. You want good contact with the clamp. See how it's a little high right here? If I loosen that clamp and put a little pressure on it, now we have good contact all the way throughout the whole web frame. So set that aside, come over here, and we'll glue this together. When you're gluing it, we're going to coat the tenon with some glue. Put a little bit here, not too much. Get a nice spread there like that.
Same thing here. All right. Make sure the X's are facing the right direction. Pull these out.
So coming close to here, that's bad. So we'll loosen it, wiggle it, make sure it's nice and even there, we'll lock it down. Repeat that process over here. Even. Give it a snug, loosen it, put some pressure down on the clamp, loosen it, pressure down on the clamp, get our rag, and get the glue up. And if you did it right, these should be nice and even. And we'll flip it over, and as best we can, we'll get the glue off. And we'll look at it this way, make sure it's flat, which it is. And that's it.